3 sentences, and each one has quietly approved a doomed decision somewhere. The schedule scored 82%, so it's fine. The completion date moved a month. Must be progress. This schedule beats the benchmark, so it's achievable. All 3 sound reasonable. All 3 are traps, and today I'm going to dismantle each one properly. Today we zoom out, put a number on the whole thing, and check it against the outside world. Welcome back to Catalyst Grid. I'm Kingsley Amufua, and this is Schedule Assurance with Deltek Acumen. Quick anchor. Parts 2 and 3 took us through a complete diagnostic pass. That's the full diagnose stage of our pipeline. Today, we move into compare and benchmark, the next 2 stages, and we start closing the loop on quality before the season turns to risk. 3 parts, 1 video. Part 1, the Fuse Schedule Index, and how to report a score honestly instead of hiding behind it. Part 2, forensic comparison, the discipline that separates real progress from quiet structural change. Part 3, benchmarking against a global population, and the hard limit on what that comparison can actually prove. Let's start with the number everyone quotes and almost nobody uses correctly. The Fuse Schedule Index is a composite measure built from 9 core schedule quality metrics, weighted according to how important each one is judged to be to the overall quality of the plan. That's the concept. Here's the catch, and I want you to internalize it before you ever quote a score to anyone. The exact configuration behind that number needs to be checked in the installed library every time, because libraries can be customized, weightings can be changed, thresholds can be changed. Certain projects or activity types can be excluded, and different organizations run different governance standards entirely. So an 82% from one installation is not automatically comparable to an 82% from another. The number is configuration dependent, not a universal constant, and treating it as one is where the trouble starts. Here's the sentence that has quietly approved more doomed programs than almost anything else in this profession. The schedule scored 82%, therefore it's acceptable. That sentence treats a screening number as a conclusion, and it skips every question that actually matters. Here's the version I want you using instead. The schedule scored 82%. The remaining failures are concentrated in missing successors, excessive constraints, and commissioning logic. 2 of those failures sit directly on the contractual completion path. Notice what that second version does. It keeps the number, but it tells you where the failures live and whether they matter. That's the whole discipline in one contrast. The score is a screening and trending measure. It tells you whether to look closer and whether things are improving or decaying over time. It is never a substitute for the professional judgment of someone who's actually read what's failing and why. Acumen ships with standard metric libraries covering different concerns. Schedule quality, the one we've mostly been discussing. Cost, overall project performance, risk exposure, earned value, and the well-known DCMA 14-point assessment, a widely referenced government standard checklist. These libraries can be organized around categories, project attributes, or specific phases of the project lifecycle. And scorecards can report either an overall project score or scores at the individual activity level. The point is, quality isn't the only lens available, and depending on what a review is actually for, a different library or a blend of several may be the right tool. And here's a governance upgrade most organizations skip, and it's worth building deliberately. Don't run one threshold set against every schedule type. Build separate libraries for separate purposes. A tender program review, where you're assessing a bid before award. Baseline acceptance, where you're deciding whether to formally accept a contractor's program. The monthly update review, your steady state cycle. A procurement program, which behaves very differently from a construction sequence. A commissioning program, dense with interfaces and approvals. A recovery program, where the priorities shift entirely toward credible acceleration. Schedule risk readiness, the specific gate will build properly later this season, and an executive portfolio review rolled up across many projects at once. Different schedule types genuinely shouldn't share identical thresholds, because what counts as acceptable float on a 2-week look-ahead is nonsense applied to a 5-year master program. Build the library to match the question you're actually asking. A score tells you the state of a schedule at one moment. It doesn't tell you the story of how it got there, or what actually changed between one version and the next. And that story is exactly where the next trap lives. The lazy word that explains away every date that moves. Progress. Few can compare a base project against one or more other versions, examining a defined set of fields and identifying exactly where they differ. Results can be filtered down to what matters and exported for a report or a record. And the fields worth comparing are broad. Start and finish dates, durations and remaining duration, total float and free float, relationships, constraints, calendar assignment, activity status, actual dates, percent complete, WBS position, activity codes, resources, costs, user-defined fields. Run that comparison properly, and you're not guessing what changed between two versions of a schedule. You're looking directly at it. In practice, 3 comparisons should run every single cycle because each one answers a genuinely different question. Current update against the previous update. What moved this cycle? Specifically, current update against the contract baseline. How far has the whole program drifted from the original commitment? And current update against the approved recovery program where one exists. Are we actually tracking the recovery plan we agreed to, or quietly drifting off it too? 3 lenses, 3 different necessary answers. Whichever comparison you're running, push it to answer the same set of questions every time. What actually changed? Who changed it? When was it changed? Which relationships were added or deleted? Which calendars changed? Which constraints changed? Which durations increased? Which activities were added or deleted entirely? And the big one, what actually caused the completion date to move? Was it genuine progress, a logic change, a scope change, or a shift in planning assumptions that had nothing to do with the physical work at all? That last question is where the lazy explanation usually gets caught. It slipped due to progress. Sounds complete. It almost never is the whole story, and a proper comparison is how you find out what's hiding behind it. Where it's available in your configured environment, progressive or half-step analysis takes this even further. It separates the different sources of movement between 2 schedule versions individually, the effective status and actual progress on its own, the effective duration changes on their own, logic changes, isolated, calendar changes, isolated, constraint changes, isolated, and activities added or deleted, isolated. The whole purpose is to stop a project attributing every bit of movement to progress, when real structural changes, a new constraint here, a deleted relationship there, may have contributed just as much or more. It's the difference between a doctor saying you're not feeling well and a doctor saying exactly which test came back abnormal. Forensic integrity is non-negotiable. Forensic comparison tells you how your own schedule has moved against itself over time. But there's a bigger question that internal comparison alone can never answer. Compared to everyone else building something similar, is this schedule actually normal? That's where benchmarking comes in, and it's powerful, right up until the exact point where it becomes dangerous if you trust it too far. The benchmarking view compares your project's analytics against an anonymized global database of similar projects. It includes standardized scoring using the fused schedule index we opened with, direct comparison against that population of other projects, and a forecast of the likelihood of on-time and on-budget completion, drawn from how similar programs actually performed. It's available where anonymous benchmarking has been enabled in your organization's Acumen options. Used well. Benchmarking answers genuinely useful questions. Is this schedule more or less mature than comparable programs at the same stage? Is the logic density normal for a program of this size or unusually sparse? Is the level of constraint unusually high compared to similar projects? Is the schedule index above or below the comparison population? Is the program structurally consistent with projects that actually completed successfully, or does it resemble the ones that didn't? And, tracked over time, is the program improving or deteriorating between updates relative to how comparable projects typically trend? Those are real valuable questions, and answering them against an outside population is something no internal comparison can do on its own. Here's the sentence I want you to remember above everything else in this episode. Benchmarking should never be treated as proof that a schedule is achievable. A project can score well structurally, sit comfortably above the comparison population, and still contain unrealistic productivity assumptions. missing scope that simply hasn't been modeled yet, access dates that nobody has actually secured, acceleration that's been assumed but never funded, resources the plan requires but the organization doesn't actually have available, technically wrong sequencing that happens to calculate cleanly anyway, or procurement assumptions that are simply too optimistic to survive contact with a real supply chain. None of those show up as a structural defect. They show up as a schedule that looks perfectly healthy and still can't be delivered. So benchmark results must always be supplemented with genuine technical and commercial review. The population comparison tells you whether the schedule resembles others that succeeded. It cannot tell you whether this specific project, with its specific site, its specific suppliers, and its specific team, will actually be one of them. Let's bring all three parts together. Part 1. The Fuse Schedule Index is a weighted composite, and its exact configuration depends on the installed library. Check it, don't assume it. Report a score with where the failures live and what they hit, never as a bare percentage that ends the conversation. And build purpose-built libraries, because a tender review and a 2-week look-ahead shouldn't share a threshold set. Part 2. Forensic comparison replaces guessing with evidence. Run the 3 standard monthly comparisons. Push everyone through the same set of questions. What changed? Who? When? And why? And use progressive analysis where it's available to stop blaming everything on progress when logic, calendars, or constraints did real work too. Part 3. Benchmarking is genuinely powerful for context, maturity, logic density, constraint levels, trend direction. But it can never prove a schedule is achievable. A structurally excellent schedule can still be undeliverable, and only technical and commercial judgment catches that. This week's challenge, covering all 3 parts. Report your schedule's score the honest way, out loud, in a real sentence, not just the percentage. Or run a forensic comparison against last month and find one change that wasn't simply progress. Or, if you have access to benchmarking, check where your project sits against the population, and then ask yourself honestly whether you'd bet on it anyway. Comment which one you tried, and subscribe, because next episode we cross into new territory entirely. Risk readiness, and the crucial distinction between uncertainty and risk before we ever touch a Monte Carlo simulation. Quality and comparison are done. Probability is next. I'm Kingsley Imufua. This is Catalyst Grid. Assure the schedule. Kingsley Imufua, your host, signing off. If your library weights a metric at 20%, a failure there hits your score much harder than a minor lag violation. You must know your sliders before you defend your score. When you report failures, map them to the timeline. Saying the schedule has logic gaps is vague. Saying the commissioning phase has no successors for 10 critical activities is actionable intelligence. Always compare against the contract baseline. Comparing against a recently saved working baseline only tells you what changed last week. It hides the long-term drift from the original promise. Watch the supply chain. Benchmarking can't see that your specific transformer lead time is actually double the industry average right now. Technical supply chain review must override benchmark green lights. And productivity. Benchmarking checks the math, but not the mud. If your site conditions or labor availability are unique, no population database can tell you if your individual durations will actually hold up. Phase 2 of the season starts next episode. We move from the deterministic to the stochastic, from what is the date to how likely is the date. It's going to be a game changer. Understand the difference between longest path and total float criticality. On a complex project with multiple calendars and constraints, they aren't always the same thing. A constraint can make a side path look critical, while the actual longest physical sequence of work is hidden elsewhere. Always verify which one is driving your end date. Trust the physics. To mitigate diverge point risk, try to decouple downstream activities. Can some of those successors start earlier using partial data? Reducing the fan-out reduces the slip exposure. By staggering the start of successors or creating intermediate handovers, you smooth the risk. Don't let one slip take down 10 work fronts at once. Design your logic for resilience. Part 4 is the final pillar of our quality pipeline. We've mastered the index, the comparison, and the benchmark. We have removed every distortion. Our schedule is now a high-performance model. I'm Kingsley Imufua. Thank you for your commitment to excellence. See you in the Risk Deep Dive starting in Part 5. Assure the schedule. Kingsley Amafua, signing off for the season's pivot. Part 1. The Fuse Schedule Index. Part 2. Forensic Comparison. Part 3. Benchmarking against a global population. Let's start with the index. The Fuse Schedule Index is a composite measure built from 9 core schedule quality metrics, weighted according to how important each one is judged to be to the overall quality. By combining these metrics, Acumen gives you a single, high-level number that reflects the structural health of your entire network. It's a snapshot of predictability. But remember, weightings can be changed, thresholds can be changed, organization standards vary, and 82% from one company is not the same as an 82% from another. Check your settings first. Treating the index as a universal constant is a rookie mistake. It is configuration dependent. Before you quote a score, you must be able to explain the logic and weightings that generated it. Report the failures honestly. Map them to the contractual completion path. If a logic gap exists in the critical sequence, it's a major risk, regardless of the overall schedule score. Focus on impact. Specific failure analysis is what makes a score useful. Without knowing where the leaks are, the number is just noise. Trace your failures to their driving paths and identify the recovery actions required. Back to Part 2. Calendars. A common mistake is using a standard 5-day calendar for work that's happening on an accelerated 7-day site schedule. This calendar drift hides true capacity. The wrong calendar can make you miss risks that only happen on weekends or during specific shift handovers. Always align your calendar to the reality of the work front. When sweeping for progress errors, be forensic. Future actual dates are often a sign of auto-updating without checking the field. It's a sign of a scheduler who's lost touch with the site. If you see future dates, your data is corrupted. You must reset to the true data date. This is the only way to restore the honesty of your completion forecast. Ensure your team knows this. Let's revisit out-of-sequence logic. Retained logic is the safer default. It respects the original plan. But progress override assumes the field has found a new, better way. Use both with caution. The goal is the truth. If out-of-sequence work is happening, your original logic was likely wrong. Update the logic links to match reality instead of relying on a software setting. In Part 3, near-critical paths are where your contingency lives or dies. If you have 10 paths all within 2 days of the critical path, you don't have one driving path. You have a risk explosion. This is path density. High density means any small error anywhere will delay the project. You must track these near misses as carefully as the zero float path itself. Tracing merge hotspots requires looking at the predecessor count. If one milestone has 20 predecessors, the probability of finishing that milestone on time is statistically tiny. Every predecessor is a point of failure. This is why we focus on merge point bias and risk modeling. It's the silent killer of project completion dates. Watch your convergences. Take IFC release, designed for construction. It's a classic merge point. It needs engineering, client approval, and regulatory sign-off. If one of those is late, the site stops. It's high risk, or permanent power. It depends on the utility company, site cabling, switchgear delivery, and safety inspections. It's another alignment point that can derail your commissioning sequence. How do you mitigate these? Early engagement with the parties involved, dedicated buffers at the merge point, and identifying parallel work that can happen even if the hotspot slips. Protect your merge points. They are the most fragile parts of your network. If you don't manage them specifically, they will manage your project, usually by delaying it. Everything we've covered today, the constraints, the calendars, the paths, builds on the logic integrity we established in Part 2. It's all about one goal: schedule assurance. Remember, a schedule isn't just a report. It's a tool for decision-making. By removing these distortions, you're giving your leadership team the clear truth they need to lead. Thank you for sticking with this deep dive. It's a lot of data, but it's the foundation of project success. I'm Kingsley Amufua. I'll see you in the next